Chadwick Boseman could have made more money than RDJ if he had still been alive right now. Now I'm talking about the MCU roster of actors, right, that has done their thing since the first Iron Man, pretty much when the whole MCU situation started. Some people could argue it could be the Hulk that started it, but from that time till the culmination of where we're even looking at all the X-Men movies, and we're looking at even with the Spider-Man movies combined. Like, we're talking even the Spider-Man movies era, right? Now, what brought me to this thought process? I'll get into that in a second. Just wanted to welcome you back to the channel here. My name is Slick. I'm just, trying to create a channel where I could just talk about certain topics and we could debate them here in the comments. If you want to participate, you participate. If you don't, you don't. I'm not here to even chase any kind of trends of what's going on in politics or whatever. I just come up with some topics or, that we could debate here. And then, you guys tell me if you agree or disagree, right? And then, another day I come up with another topic and then we could debate that, right? But at the end of the day, I'm too small of a channel to even chase trends right now. I don't even care for the trends. I just want to create an environment where we could all have these discussions and then, participate in Discord and then move on with our day. I mean, what else do? We come online, see stuff that entertains us, we move on, right? So anyway, back to the topic at hand, which I'm bringing up here, is that Chadwick Boseman probably could have made more money than RDJ. Now, I'm not just bringing that out of nowhere, because what got me thinking about this in the first place had to do with, the top Marvel movies that made a lot of money in the beginning, right? So if you could think of them off the top of your head, you're probably thinking Infinity War, you're thinking all the Avengers movies and stuff, right? You're thinking Spider-Man No Way Home, right? You're thinking probably Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Wolverine. You're probably thinking of what else? The Iron Man movies, right? If we look at the top 10, I probably Google it right now and find it. So top 10 Marvel movies of all time. Let's see. It made the most money, right? So when we look at these, probably see here that the ones that have probably had the most gross that was made, you're probably looking at, I'm gonna while this thing loads, I'm probably gonna guess Infinity War is at the top. Endgame, right? So Infinity War and Endgame for sure are in the top 5. Okay, so Avengers Endgame, right, was the top one. Spider-Man No Way Home, Avengers Infinity War, the Avengers Age of Ultron, and then at number 6 you have Black Panther, right? So think about the top 5 here, right? The other movies that came before that were not really, I don't think there were solo movies that way, introducing a superhero. Like Spider-Man No Way Home was actually coming off of the legacies of Tobey Maguire, because you had to bring him back, Andrew Garfield, right? You also had Willem Dafoe coming back as the Green Goblin, right? So it's not like he was alone in that. Daredevil was in there too. Like, you had all these, a star-studded cast just coming back to do Spider-Man, right? And then you also had Tom Holland. Obviously, would come up in the Avengers saga that we already had. So he already has a lot of help there, right? But if you think of how Chadwick Boseman came in, right? He had Black Panther, and before, his introduction was in Civil War, right? So really and truly, like, I was thinking, okay, this guy, yeah, you show up in Civil War. A lot of characters showed up in Civil War, but none of them were going to have their own solo act. And even if they had their solo act after appearing in Civil War, was it going to do as well as any of these other, you know, 5 movies that came before, that came in the top 6 here, right? If you think about that, that's a huge thing. Black Panther still made more money than Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's a solo movie, right? By that character. If you even think about the other characters that showed up in the Black Panther movie itself, they weren't like crowd pullers like that. Like, you could say maybe Michael B. Jordan would have been a pull, right? Like would have pulled a huge crowd as well. But I don't think he was as famous at that point to say, oh, he's the sole person pulling all these people into the theaters. You know, having people come out to the theaters. I don't think he had that much pull, right? Now, the other thing you could probably look at is let's compare, because even the first time you see Iron Man here, Iron Man comes up in position 8, which was Iron Man 3 that made 1.2 billion. Captain America Civil War, 1.15 billion, right? And by the way, Black Panther came out after Captain America Civil War, right? And it made more money, right? Now, if we look at the salary, right? RDJ, so let's see. Who got paid more? RDJ or Chadwick? Actually, let's look at which movie made more money. Iron. Sorry, let's actually do this, because this might be a better question asked. So, yeah, okay. Which movie got more ROI? ROI. Let's say Endgame or Black Panther 1. Right, now this is looking at what the profit margins were for these movies, just to see like which one made more money for them, right? So this is what Gemini says. Black Panther 1 had a higher return on investment than Avengers Endgame. And Endgame was the number one, right, grossing movie actually for the MCU. And it had all of them in it. Black Panther had a higher return on investment, right? So Black Panther production budget was 200 million, worldwide gross 1.34 billion, net profit 476.8 million. Endgame had 356 million as production budget, worldwide gross 2.79 billion, and net profit 890 million, right? So to understand the difference, right, it goes into all this explanation and stuff. But the amount that they put into Black Panther was less, but they got a higher profit from it, a higher profit margin. If you think about that, because that's really crazy when it comes to that. So it had a better return on investment. You can Google this yourself, right? And if you look at how much Chadwick Boseman paid versus let's see, RDJ Marvel movies. Let's see. So, RDJ earned significantly more than Chadwick Boseman, pulling in base paychecks ranging from 15 million to 75 per film. By comparison, Boseman earned an estimated $2 million in base salary for Black Panther. Right. So when we even look at when we go deeper into it, I'll show you why I think he could have earned or asked for more money. So RDJ initial base salary first Iron Man was 500,000. However, as the anchor of the MCU, he negotiated lucrative back-end deals and box office bonuses. He reportedly earned 15 million for the Avengers 2012 and estimated 75 million for Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Over his MCU tenure, his total earnings are estimated between 500 million and 600 million. Chadwick Boseman signed a multi-film contract starting with a relatively modest base salary of 500,000. So they pretty much kind of started at the same, you know, well, his was a multi-film contract, right? But initial base salary for RDJ was 500,000, right? So for his introduction in Captain America: Civil War, right? Then he later negotiated a reported 2 million base salary for the solo Black Panther film and similar seven-figure amounts for Infinity War and Endgame. So, based on what those solo films grossed, right? Are you telling me that Chadwick Boseman couldn't have come back after that solo Black Panther film and what it made, right? Even though he had already negotiated the Infinity War and Endgame appearances. For the second Black Panther, you're telling me he wouldn't have negotiated a bigger contract for that and probably made close to what RDJ is making based off what those franchises made individually? Because his solo movie was big. It made way more money, right, than the Iron Man films. And he initially was able to negotiate a higher amount. Now you could say that inflation did play into that, fine. But at the end of the day, I think even without any help from previous legacy films, like how Spider-Man had helped, right? So Tom Holland pretty much was able to just get grandfathered in, and people who were fans of Spider-Man before continued to watch the same thing, right? Or expect the same kind of standard or even a better one because it was the MCU at that time and it was hot, right? So Chadwick Boseman, I think, had less of a less movies to piggyback off of because it was the pretty much the Infinity War saga. But at the same time, you still had other films that came out during that time, like Captain Marvel came out, didn't make as much money. You had the Captain America ones didn't make that as much money as Black Panther did as well, and there was a movement behind it. But I mean, maybe there's something I'm not seeing. Maybe there's some background stuff or deals that were going on that couldn't have given him the ability to ask for more money and actually make more, right, on the back end for all these deals. But I think he could have been able to he had the ability, or at least the leverage, to negotiate a bigger contract than Robert Downey Jr. had he still been alive. Now, if you disagree, agree, let me know right down in the comments. This was pretty much my thought for the day, just to see if this is something we could debate, and maybe we could come up with a consensus on who could have made more money if Chadwick Boseman was still alive. Pretty much. This is not to pit. Also, this is not like a racial kind of discussion because I don't really like getting into that. I like looking at numbers and just pretty much looking at things as they are and calling them as it is, right, at the end of the day. So let's have a discussion in the comments. See if you agree or disagree with me. Also, hit the subscribe button if you want more content like this. Let me know as well. And hope you have yourself a great day. We'll talk soon.